Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy full moon in Capricorn. Let's begin with our topic for today, which is mutations. So the word mutation comes from the word mutar, that means to mutate, which is to change. It means to change, to transform into something. So we can use the term also. One of the terms that we can understand from mutate is to move. When you move from one place to another, is like also a way of mutation. When you move from one place to another, you're transforming the place where you live. So it's related to changing all the time. If there is a constant in the universe, that is change. So everything is changing, and this is why mutation is in everything. Everything is transforming. So usually we relate the concept of mutations into something organic, like saying my body has changed, or something really weird happened to a physical aspect of someone's body. But it's not only about that. Mutation is about constant change, something that is changing a lot. So also inorganic things can change too. Like, for example, we can have ice and it can turn in liquid. So that was a mutation in an organic thing, like is the water. So in everything we can find mutation. If it is transforming, it is mutation. The concept of mutation started to be used in 1900s, exactly that year, I guess, or around, and it was used to describe changes in the genetics, which was why we today relate mutations only with genes, with genetics. But it is not because it was always related to genetics. It is because to have since 1900s it was used just for that. So eventually this concept of mutation that was only encoded to genetics awoke the imagination of the filmmakers that started to make these movies where you could see monsters that were created through genes. So they thought that the genetic modifications would be like creating weird things in the body, so created monsters from the concept of the mutants. So that's why we got this idea that the mutants were like monsters. So of course that eventually, with the social awakening, when people started to feel that we have to accept all the difference between each other, so suddenly the movies started to create these ideas of the good mutants. So the ones that were like superheroes and we all loved, because these new mutants in the movies were the ones telling us about acceptance to our inner potential and acceptance on others' differences. So because of all this, the word mutant was only connected to movies, science fiction, and we all kind of think about science fiction when we think about mutations, and the word mutations was only related to genetics and so on, but no in a common daily life, just for scientists. Besides that idea of science fiction, we have to remember that we are changing every day. So we are mutants. We are basically here because we mutate. And this is one of the physical attributes that we will encode into Gemini, which is the ability to mutate. We have to become aware that the first big mutations that we have in our lives is when we are just zygotes, tiny little cells inside our mom's womb. So at precise place, we start to be really mutants because the cell starts to multiply, and when we do so, they start to come arms and legs and head from our cells, and weird parts of the body start to get created. So actually, during 8 or 9 months, we are really actual mutants inside our mom. And once we are born, every time that the cells make mitosis and they multiply and divide information all the time, the tiny little changes that happen inside the cells creates new mutations. And that's what makes us feel older. That's the appearance of older. The wrinkles we start to have, the white hair, some moths in the skin. The body starts to change because we start to mutate. So basically, our entire life, we are mutants. And these mutations can be positive or negative. So let's see now why we mutate, how it is originated in the organic body. So first of all, remember that it's not only the organic that has mutations, it's everything. So anything, any chemical that has a reaction is mutating. So if that chemicals are not having a reaction between one another, it is immutable. So that would be. In the very beginning, we have to recognize that the first mutations are in the inorganic realm, which is all the chemicals. They transform, they mutate because of the pressure of the environment. So whenever we have a lot of gravity or pressure because of other chemical elements around, we can have a reaction that creates something different. For example, a lot of pressure between helium and hydrogen, they could create altogether a sun, a star. So it is just different chemicals making a reaction, chemical reaction. When we bring it into our own reality, we have to remember that our beings, our bodies are made exactly from the same chemicals that are made the stars and everything in the universe. We have carbon, we have silica, we have phosphor, we have hydrogen, we have oxygen, nitrogen. We have all the chemicals that the planets, the mountains, the stars, everything has. So we have them inside. So the only thing that divides what is inorganic from organic is the structure of these chemicals. So for example, when we talk about inorganic things, is because they are stuck like this. So the particles are so stuck to one another that they cannot move, that they are really tied like this. So it's inorganic because it's not moving, not flowing. So what makes the difference to an organic? That the same chemicals are like this. They flow a little bit. So they are organic because they flow and they can change accordingly to what is needed. Okay? When we have this organic structure that is flowing, it is really easy and sensible to change to the environment. So everything that is happening around can change this thing, because any other chemical, any other element, any other particle that can come, it can go in between the links of these chemicals and break it and make some different or organization. So it can switch and change things. So it's easier to modify, to mutate when it's about organic, because it's wide open, it's easier to change. Anything that is in the environment can change the structure, because imagine that this structure is like this, here like this. So something from the outside comes and hit this one, bah, it can change it, rotate it, and create a new structure. So it's very easier to be transformed. It can also be a particle of light that comes inside and make a movement inside and break it. Okay, so anything can change this structure. Sería más o menos así. So now imagine that this is the structure of the DNA, and imagine that something from the outside comes, hit one of the particles here and breaks it. So suddenly it breaks and connects with this one here. So suddenly these two are connected and this one is separated. These packages of information has data that says everything that we have, that we are. So for example, this previous link here was known as brown eyes. But when something hit it and transformed it, and now we have this other link, suddenly we have green eyes. Green eyes. So all these changes that we live are related to the environment where we live. These things, these changes are happening in a very tiny level, which is modified by particles. Basically, the entire environment changes us through the particles. So the thing is that in the first time when the cells were in the ocean, they had no ability to defend themselves. So they're being affected by everything that happened around. Any signal or any light that can go through the atomic structure, like photons, like radio waves and these kind of things, they can affect the structure of these chemicals. So that's why one of the main ones that affect us are the ultraviolet light. The ultraviolet is called like this because it's beyond the color violet, so beyond the colors that we cannot see. This ultraviolet light can affect us very deep in our DNA, because one of these particles that can change everything is the particles of light. So this ultraviolet can change this structure. So this is why people say you have to protect yourself from ultraviolet rays and so on, because these tiny particles are the ones that can create some modification of our DNA, bring in some diseases that we don't know how to treat. Also, this is why when we go to make some X-ray, they have to cover us, they have to protect us, because basically the X-ray are also one of those things that can change our DNA. So radio waves and these kind of things. Also, when we live close to some antenna, like from TV or radio or internet, they can also affect our DNA. This is why these waves and these rays of light can change us, because they can go through the skin, they can go through all the matter, and they are so tiny particles, so tiny, that they can hit one of these DNA structures and change it. Usually, we are affected by all that. This is natural. It's the light is affecting us everywhere. All the signals is affecting us everywhere. So it's something that we cannot escape. It's almost impossible to escape from all these signals. For example, the signals from the sun, the rays of the sun, you cannot escape them. So they go through everything, basically. The ultraviolet, they go through everything. So because of this, the best protection that we have is the ozone, is the atmosphere, but it can only protect us when the rays of sun comes like this on the side, because like this they just can jump away from the atmosphere, but when they are straight they can go through the ozone cape, so the layers of ozone. So that's why they say it's better not to be on the sun when the sun is right above. Is here. This has been forever. This is not from a few years ago. The signals, the waves, the light is affecting us since the very beginning. So it's normal. Okay. The only thing is that since 50 years ago, we have been increasing the amount of signals that we have every day, like the phone, the TV, the Wi-Fi, and all these kind of things that are around us. So they affect us daily much more. So that's why we are much more stressed. We are much more tired, with headaches and these kind of things, because there are much more signals around affecting to our DNA. So this has been forever. So we have been adapting to this hard environment from the very first time. For us now, it's very common. It's normal, easy to understand that, for example, we can go under the sun, and we can take the sun going to the beach or going to the pool, and it's nice and so on. But millions of years ago, no living being could live under the sun. We all have to live under the water, because the water was protecting us from all these signals that were around from the sun and the space. So the water was protecting us until eventually there were the amphibians that they were able to create this melanin cape that protected us and created the skin. So by the skin, we were protected by this. So kind of like they sacrificed themselves in order to protect the information of the main cells within. So it was not always good to be under the sun for us. There was a moment that no living being could live under the sun. So with this kind of first mutations, the beings that mutated, they were adapted. So what they allowed was to create many other beings from them that had shields, that had like shell, that had skin, fur, so they could protect themselves from the sun. So they started to be adapted to live in the surface. So remember from yesterday that these tiny modifications, these tiny mutations, are considered like a mistake, but this mistake starts to be copied into another cell. Remember from yesterday, every DNA is multiplying itself by 2 to make a copy. So if it was broken here and it changed the structure, this structure will be copied. So eventually we will have thousands of cells saying exactly the same. So now we have 2 options here because of this copy. Maybe it could happen that when I copy this, it will create a modification in my body that won't allow me to survive in the same environment as before. So I'm destined to die. Extinct. So this is one option. And we have the other option, which is maybe this modification that it's a mistake can be the key for me to adapt to a new environment so I can survive. Today I was explaining the example of polar bear. Today I explained the polar bear. For example, every bear comes from, like every mammal, being black, like a tiny little rat, black. Why? Because in the very moment, origin of mammals, we mammals have to survive in between huge creatures that were killing us and eating us. So we had to be black so they couldn't see us during the night. So we were very dark, all of us, every mammal. So some of them, they kept being black and they start to be huge and huge until we have bears. So these bears that live in the forest, they hunt during the night because nobody could see them. But eventually the glaciation came. And when the glaciation came, everything was white. So the forest was all white and the birds were black. So the prey, they could see them coming from very far. So they just went away. So these bears to die. But some of them had a albino gene. So a mistake in the genetics created an albino bear. And this albino bear was able to hunt because it was white and the snow was white, so nobody could see them coming. And that's how they survived. They were the only ones that were strong. That's why they were chosen to make reproduction. And that's how we have now the polar bear, which is white and live in the ice. Just a tiny mutation, just a tiny mistake creates a whole possibility for a new species. So this is basically evolution. Evolution is genetic mistakes, mutations in the genes that are mistakes and proving in nature to it takes the mistakes that the genetics has and uses as a tool to adapt to the environment, to the new environment. What we have to acknowledge about this now is that whatever, even what we eat and even what we feel can modify a gene. Is something from what we cannot escape. And we have to acknowledge this. There are not good things or bad things here. there are only people and bodies that is able to adapt and bodies that are not able to adapt. So vaccines, for example, I see that there's many discussion here about vaccines. Vaccines has been with us in humanity since, I don't know, 300, 400 years. And besides that, many viruses and bacteria were inoculated in us since thousands of years. It's not something new. It's something that was natural and everyone did by plants and stuff like that. We were using this inoculation of genes, which is to put some tiny genes into our bodies, so our bodies can recognize that gene and we can adapt. It's something that we always did in history. But what happened? Some people are not able to adapt, and some others, they do. That's the only difference. So important to understand this, that for example, also some vaccines and some materials, some food, they have heavy minerals inside. And not all of us die because we take them. Just those who cannot stand those things inside. So the other ones keep going because they adapted. And the same thing happened with the 5G that a lot of people is talking about. 5G can kill, yes, but can kill mostly the people that were born in a time without signals. Those are much more sensitive because they don't have the thing inside. But the people that are being born now or stated right now, that inside, when they were just a fetus, they started to be modified within an environment that is constantly sending signals, phone signals, 4G signals. So 5G can kill us. Not all of you, not all of us. Just the ones that are not related to those signals. But the ones that are being born in those signals, they are already evolved. So just picture this idea that you can go millions of years ago and you are close by the shore of the sea, and you say to someone that is living inside the sea, like, hey, look, we are, you can come and go to the sun and take the sun with me. And the one in the ocean will say, no, it can kill you. The sun can kill you. Get inside the water because it's going to kill you. What we have to understand is that from our point of view, we will always say what is bad according to what is bad for us. What is bad for us? So I just wanted to make a thought about this, because I see how much worry most of the people are with this thing about the vaccination and the modification of the DNA and these kind of things and those mutations that we are going through now. And of course that that vaccinations can kill people. And of course that you should not vaccinate if you are pregnant, but it's not because is that vaccine the one killing babies. is because most of the vaccines are not good to be taken while you are pregnant, because it can do a bad reaction for the baby. So we have to see the big picture here, which is not exactly what is happening with this vaccine, is what happening. It is about what is happening in an entire process, which is an adaptation to something new that is happening. And how can we understand this? We should see the big picture. We should not stay just with this. We should see a very big picture. This happened many times in history. A virus, vaccines, trying to heal with medicine that kills people. This happened many times. This is not the first time. And it's important for us to understand that if we blame what is happening now, like as if it is the first time that happened, we won't understand that this is something historical in the process of adaptation, of evolution. For example, the 90% of the Native Americans from South, Central, and North America, they all died because of a sneeze, the flu. European people brought the flu like something natural for Europe, and 90% of the population died because of the flu. So we can also take that as something that was prepared for killing a lot of people. And we can also think that it was programmed. We can believe whatever we want, but it was something that is kind of the same that happened now. Now we have different technology, we have different things, but one of the things that are happening right now, as always had happened, is that never cure was found in less than 6 months. Sometimes it takes years and decades to find a cure for something. Until that moment, a lot of people dies in that process. A lot of people dies in that process. So it's something that we have to understand, that what is happening right now is because people is taking vaccines that are not really terminated, or that it's needed for much more work until we really get the point. But if we just look into the tiny picture, when it's something way much bigger, we are in the middle of a process of adaptation. We are in the middle of a process of mutation. This is how mutation is. Mutation is about adapting to something that is wrong in the environment, and a lot of people dies in this process. And it's normal to think that is wrong, of course, because from the point of view of nature, it doesn't have morality. It is just about if you are adapted or not. Also, to bring the concept that there is no an almighty God that decides who dies and who not. It's just about adaptation. We have to see the big picture to understand that sometimes it's not what we see now, because we are in the middle of the problem. And I will say something that probably sounds really ugly. What I want to say, which is really heavy maybe, is that we humans have been pushing thousands of species every day to adapt to an environment that we have created. We have been pushing a lot of animals and plants to die, to mutate as fast as they could, or to extinct and to die. Well, I would like to say that this is our time to prove that. And this is why mutations can be good or bad. The same mutation can make that one species of bears dies, but a new one can be born. How many of you have been waiting for a long time for a moment of change that says this is the moment to change? Well, so that change is called mutation. And mutation is about adapting to things that are not good. If we wanted to take some sun, it was needed to get burned. Welcome to the activation of the crown. The vibration for today is Kia. The quote today is basically the name of one of the 12 families that kept and protected the nodes of the planet in the Atlantean times. So in honor to this family, we pronounce today their code, which is Wadian. Sit comfortable, close your eyes, and concentrate in your breathing. I take a deep breath and become aware of my entire physical body. I start to move softly each joint of my body, the toes, ankles in circle, very slowly, the knees, hip, each vertebra of the spine, fingers, wrists, elbows, shoulders, neck, and the jaw. As I start to yawn and move and stretching all the body like if it is a dance. I take a deep breath, relaxing the entire body, letting all the weight fall down. And this time now, I start to recognize each part of my body with the tip of my fingers from the head till the feet, recognizing each one of it. The mutations that shape me, recognizing myself a mutant. I recognize each mutation in me, in the shape and color of my hair, of my eyebrows, of my head, the eyes. I start to wonder, to make the questions or give the answers of why each part of my body has been created. I take a deep breath, recognizing my entire body as a great mutation. I recognize that I am the result, the product of a long path of mutations, of thousands of beings that perish and needed to adapt, suffering these mutations that I now can enjoy. Each one of these mutations is the effect of a cause. But also I can choose to be the cause of future effects. I honor the mutant that I am. And I set my intention to be a greater mutant and adapt to the new times. I am the product of a cause and an effect. I am the product of a cause and an effect. I am the product of a cause and an effect. I think, I think, I think. Thank you everybody for being here another day, and see you tomorrow, as always, at the same time.